You know me, I love a little bit of controversy, and we are going to dive right into it. Are you doing the right diet plan? May you be eating the foods that you think are right but are actually wrong for you? Let's get into it with Lyn-Genet, who's out with her brand new best-selling book, The Plan. Lyn, welcome.
Hi, Conn.
How did you first establish the idea that we could be eating the wrong foods?
Well, I was very careful about tracking all of my clients. I work with them daily, sometimes hourly, tracking their responses. And I started to notice that whenever I would put in certain healthy foods, they would not only gain weight, but their health issues would start to crop up as well. So I started to omit these foods, and I was keeping track, and I started to notice, wow, 85% of my clients will gain 2 pounds from black beans or salmon or Greek yogurt. So, of course, I started to say, let's not add these foods to their diet.
Well, that's interesting because those are 3 foods that are definitely within my nutritional plan. So the book gives alternatives then to those? Like, what would you do if you were a salmon eater? Is there a better alternative?
Conn, that's a great question. Too many people are dieting. You don't need to diet and you don't need to count calories. What you do need to find out is which foods are causing you to gain weight and which foods work with your chemistry. And when you find that out, you can actually eat a lot more. So that's our goal. We call it the anti-diet. So what we want you to do is start with a baseline of healthy foods, and these are the foods that we have in the cleanse. You're eating over 2,000 calories a day, but you're losing over 5 pounds in those 3 days. Day 4, life gets normal. We start to add in the good stuff: cheese, coffee, chocolate, wine. And then day 5 and on, we start to test the foods that you love. What's important to you? Now, you brought up salmon. That's a great question. If salmon doesn't work for you, well, maybe red snapper does, and you can get your omega-3 from other sources.
Wow. So as you explored these issues, particularly I'm still caught with salmon, oatmeal. What did you start your breakfast with today?
What did I start my breakfast today? Well, one of my favorite things is to start with some flax granola. I actually like soups in the morning as well. Berries are always great. I love nuts in the morning, and that's what works for me. But French toast might work for you. And that's the thing. If you're cutting out the French toast thinking that that's the problem and it's actually the asparagus, well, if I were you, I'd want to identify that.
That's pretty interesting. You have a strategy where you literally day 1, did I hear right? We're starting out with red wine, chocolate.
That's day 4. Yes, everybody loves that day.
Well, let's go right to day 4 then, darn it. But if you bring on a food, one food a day, would you be able to see your body react in a certain way?
That's a great question. We have the day structured where you're eating over 2,000 calories a day, but you're losing half a pound a day. It all changes, though, when you start to introduce that healthy food that doesn't work for your chemistry. So if you introduce strawberries and you gain a pound instead of losing half a pound, well, that's definitely a sign from your body saying, please don't feed this to me. And that's not the way you want to gain a pound.
So after the plan, we're going to all look as good as you?
Yeah. You're very
all right.
Yes.
Well, I'm diving into this. Now, when you have worked with clients, what's one thing to keep them on the plan? You know, everyone dives in for a couple days and then life gets busy. What is it about your plan that helps people manage it so well?
Well, that's a great question, Conn. We call it the anti-diet because as quickly as possible, we want to start to introduce the foods that you love and that's important to you. So I don't want you eating vegan. I don't want you eating raw. I want you to eat like you. And when you figure out those 3 to 4 foods that don't work with your chemistry out of the 30 or 40 that you're eating, it's easy to cut them out because you're eating plenty of other foods that you love.
Now, one thing I know, Lyn-Genet, is that you are a hormonal specialist. Do foods affect our hormones, or is it just the glands?
That is such a great question. 60 to 70% of our immune system is in our intestines. So whenever we eat an inflammatory food, it's going to suppress our immune system. But not only that, inflammatory foods trigger cortisol response. And for men, that means it affects your testosterone, and for women, it means it affects your progesterone. So it definitely will affect hormonal response, and that's yet another reason why, outside of the weight gain, you want to identify these foods.
All right, universally for men, are there just a few foods that you're like, there's a good chance that these foods are going to give you problems? Let's say like milk, soda. I'm just curious if there's a few that you would say, you know what, let's just take that out.
Well, oatmeal is a big one. Men, I have to say, are pretty invincible. It's almost annoying, but men do really well. Asparagus and cauliflower are big ones. Tomato sauce is a big one for men. Pork seems to be a big one, but many of the foods that you love work really well. Steak,
okay,
great. French fries, not a problem. Bread, really good. So when you start to say the trade-off kind of works, I don't need to give up the bread and the butter, maybe just get rid of the cauliflower, I think that's kind of a winning scenario.
That really is. Do you believe in the maybe eating the grazing kind of diet where you eat 4 or 5 times a day to just keep the hormones in balance? Or
no, that's such a great question. First of all, most people aren't eating the right food, so their days aren't chemically balanced. When a day's chemically balanced, I have people during the cleanse saying that they're too full to eat dinner. But here's what happens. Digestion takes a lot of energy. So if we're grazing all day, we're diverting energy from homeostasis, meaning that the body's repairing, to digestion. And that's not really the best use of our energy. I'd rather have my body fixing my heart and my liver and my lung.
Good. So would I. Last thoughts with the author here of The Plan, Lyn-Genet. What's your last words of wisdom for us?
Well, I want you to remember that your weight is just your chemical response to food, and that number on the scale is just data. You're always in charge, and you can always lose weight and get healthier.
Lyn, you're the best nutritional cheerleader anyone could have. I love that little saying you had, and more importantly, I can't wait for day 4, chocolate and red wine. Dreamy. Thanks so much, and thanks for all your work on the plan.
My pleasure.